And then what? This was the question asked by American ecologist Garrett Hardin repeatedly during the 1960s through the 1990s. The question came in response to essentially any proposed action. For example, when a solution was proposed to virtually any perceived problem, Hardin would pose the question, and then what? Imagine if the people who asked this question had not been ignored in response to burning fossil fuels, or harnessing the atom, or storing large quantities of food, or harnessing fire. You get the idea. Too few humans asked. In response, many people and innumerable other species have paid the ultimate price. Unfortunately, we will soon join them. I have asked myself Hardin's questions many times, most notably in response to the issue of informing the masses about our imminent demise. As it turns out, promulgating evidence about that particular topic was a costly error with respect to earning money and maintaining relationships. Standard responses from my contemporaries have included betrayal, derision, rejection, isolation, defamation, and plagiarism. Occasionally, though, I am merely mocked. It is too late to turn back the clock. Wishing will not allow me to undo my integrity-laden error. Now that my personal and professional sacrifices have proven costly, how shall I proceed? The responses I have received, along with my inquisitive mind, lead me to ask a slightly different question from that of Hardin. Now what? How shall I proceed during my final remaining time on Earth? My response is facilitated by my removal from public service, courtesy of a successful defamation campaign that has effectively destroyed my ability to deliver public presentations. The same campaign has cost me interviews, too. Most importantly, it has cost me friends and family. As I have pointed out previously, I have no control over the response of ignorant potential hosts, organizers, and interviewers who are susceptible to influence by people who lie about me. In general, the response has been negative for those interested in pursuing evidence, including me, and positive for those who prefer the masses remain ignorant. My favorite definition of grief comes from the Grief Recovery Institute, as I have mentioned previously in this space. Quote, wishing for a different past, end quote. Had scientists been pointing out the full evidence throughout their careers, they would feel no remorse about their contemporary actions. Had they lived as if climate represented a serious existential threat during the last century, then their personal actions would have left little or no room to rue the present, much less the past. For the remainder of this short video, I will put aside the issue of science conducted properly. Instead, I will focus on actions any grief-stricken or fear-filled scientist could have taken instead of defaming me. I suspect these actions would have led to a positive outcome relative to their newfound grief or fear for many scientists, and certainly for me. First and foremost, scientists could have seriously considered the evidence I was collating, organizing, and promulgating. It was, and still is, evidence they published. I have been merely locating and presenting the evidence uncovered by other individuals, and then properly crediting those individuals. I learned how to do this work in graduate school. Most of the papers I quote are written by people who are teaching and mentoring graduate students. That these authors are teachers and mentors is as terrifying a thought as the blind literally leading the blind off a cliff. I am more than 60 years of age. Due to my pursuit of a frugal life, I have enjoyed the enormous privilege of a roof over my head and food on the table, despite voluntarily declining further paychecks on May 1st, 2009. During my life so far, I have traveled to more than a dozen countries. I conducted the academic work I love for most of my adult life at several colleges and universities. I lived adventurously in the Belizean jungle, and I have enjoyed wonderful cultural phenomena and also superb food. I am wealthy in numerous ways that matter. By conventional first world standards, I am not financially wealthy. My shaky monetary status has become unexpectedly worse with frequent cases of relocation, all in the name of love. Now I live on the uncomfortable edge. Fortunately, I have yet to wake in the morning concerned about starving to death. If industrial civilization remains longer than I expect, then I might wake up some morning with starvation on my mind. Ironically, the ongoing El Niño Southern Oscillation seems among the events likely to solve that problem on my behalf. The question remains for me, now what? Considering my age, my tenuous financial status, and the mission I have given myself, how shall I proceed? I would love to return to life in the wilds of western Belize. However, consequences result from love, commitment, and a sense of responsibility. The personal consequences for me include living in southeastern Vermont for the foreseeable future. Now that I live in a community well-suited for an aging, retired man, I suppose I could begin acting like an aging, retired man. I can imagine reading for enjoyment on a regular basis during the 4 to 6 cold winter months, as long as heating the house is an option. When the ability to artificially heat this home passes, I will not be far behind. If such an event coincides with a significant reduction in individual activity and also industrial activity, then human habitat will disappear shortly thereafter. I'm not going away, nor am I giving up, whatever that means, in light of abrupt, irreversible climate change. Instead, I will continue my educational efforts by the means remaining to me. I will continue to submit to interviews with decent humans, although the coordinated defamation campaign has largely removed these opportunities. I will continue to deliver my message on speaking tours, although such tours seem increasingly unlikely, again due to the organized defamation campaign. In summary, all work-related options involving significant monetary compensation have exhausted themselves. Ditto for most of my voluntary work, which has been destroyed by the defamation campaign. As a result, and largely due to the absence of other reasonable options, I will attempt to pursue a fun, fulfilling life. Of course, past attempts were sacrificed on the altar of public service, so I remain skeptical of my own ability. I will pursue relevant activities with thoughts of grace and gratitude, while living with urgency. I will also keep in mind some words from 20th century American poet Robinson Jeffers in his poem, Not Man Apart. Quote, "Then what is the answer? Not to be deluded by dreams, to keep one's own integrity, be merciful and uncorrupted, and not wish for evil."